Hey, Empaths, big question for you. What is codependency? According to Psychology Today, they state that codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes a role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic, it can occur just as easily between parent and child, friends, and family members. The term codependency first appeared in substance abuse circles to describe a lopsided relationship that has been consumed and controlled by one person's addiction. It grew in popularity and became shorthand for any enabling relationship. Codependency is not a clinical diagnosis or personality disorder and has sparked much debate and controversy among psychology experts. I think it probably sparks debate amongst a lot of us as well, who isn't maybe considered an expert, right? What are your thoughts? Are you familiar with codependency? Can you relate to any of the characteristics or experiences that occur for those who deal with codependency? I certainly have, which is why I'm sharing it with you. So without further ado, let me welcome you to Energy Healing TV and Podcast. And again, I am your host, Robin Knott, and I invite you to journal with me on the self-love journey so we can heal the layers of codependency and allow love for self without feelings of blame, shame, and guilt. I feel like that I need to stress that. At least for me, if I allowed love for self, I felt guilty. Or if I put my own needs in front of somebody else's wants, I felt guilty. And I took on blame and shame and all the things. Does that resonate for you as well? So in this series, I will show you, one, how to heal the 7 energies that supports the best you through this journaling process. 2, how to balance all 7 chakras by aligning with the polar opposite chakras. So I'll explain more of what I mean for each one. And 3, I'll offer some energy healing journal prompts, like specific prompts for each of those 7 areas. And for a bonus, right? As the lead soul guided instructor at the Spiritual Biz YouTubers Network and the Soul Legacy Academy with Iona Mead, I'll introduce you to the 7 freedoms of her Soul Legacy journal. Obviously, I won't take you all the way through all the pieces of her journal or describe it in the ways that she does. She'll take you through that on, herself. However, we are partners, we're a team, and it's amazing to me how our journaling process, although different, meld together so beautifully. So first one, let me switch over my banner so you can see, and we'll keep us on track here with the visuals if you're watching the video. First one is beliefs. So for me in codependency, I did have loved ones battling with or dealing with, trying to live with addiction. So that part of the definition from Psychology Today is fitting in my own personal life journey. Some of the beliefs that I acquired from my life experiences as a child really led me to believing that I was undeserving. It sounds so harsh when I hear myself say it, but truly, I felt undeserving of existing, of having my own wants or needs or likes or dislikes. Like I didn't have permission to do so. So it made it a bit challenging, right? To, I want to say like grow and live and expand and all the things. It was challenging. So some of those beliefs that I acquired through that life experience, point being, so beliefs, if you notice, begins with the letter B, right? B is the first letter of best you. It's part of my acronym. So B for B and best you is beliefs. The beliefs are also governed by our root chakra. It's like the root of our 3D physical reality. It's how I see and understand the world through my human eyes, through this human life experience, right? So it affects all the things in my experience and each next experience. And there's layers upon layers of those, yeah? So we have my beliefs and the root chakra energy, right? So let me add in a little bit here as well from the Soul Legacy Journal, the contribution freedom. So Iona talks and describes contribution freedom and what that looks like and how we can journal through that process and heal the things to contribute in the ways that we want to contribute, and think about for a moment how my beliefs and the energy in the root chakra would affect how I show up and contribute as a person and all the different roles that I have in my life, right? As a mom, as a daughter, as a friend, as a sister, all the things, they just go hand in hand. So another to consider then is the polar opposite, which is the crown chakra. So when I think of my beliefs in my human life experience, and the opposite chakra from the root chakra is the crown chakra, right? Crown chakra being that direct connection with God, source, creator, highest self, whatever name you give to your higher power. That would be the polar opposite of this human life experience, right? So as in my humanness, if I'm having those beliefs of undeservingness in my root chakra, when I pivot up into the higher vibration of unconditional love, that unconditional love of God, source, creator, again, whatever name you give, that view is very different, right? How in that lens of unconditional love could I then see myself as undeserving? It doesn't fit, does it? So again, a way of balancing that energy. And this is, I'm scratching the surface as a way to journal and give some perspective for your journaling process, for your energy healing lifestyle, right? So keep that in mind. Pull in that lens from the crown chakra, that vibration of unconditional love when you're addressing, and I don't want to say challenging, but clearing is a better word I like to use, clearing those beliefs. So some journal prompts that you can use in your energy healing journal. First, ask yourself, what are some life experiences? What are some of those memories that keep popping up for me, right? What might those be? And then two, another journal prompt, what are the beliefs about those experiences? You might have some really great ones too, right? It doesn't all have to be heavy and icky. Excuse me, but as we don't want to clear, right? We're not clearing the icky ones, but note them, and we can use the energy of those wonderful memories and beliefs to help balance out and clear the heavy, icky ones that get in our way or hold us back, right? And as always, I am grateful for, what is something you're grateful for in your life experience, whether it's from childhood or, a year ago, today, your now moments. What are you grateful for? Even if we think, oh, my childhood really sucked and I'm not grateful for any of it, I'm grateful that I'm not in it right now, right? I'm grateful that I can look at it through a different lens. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to heal it. I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to change my beliefs. Granted, we can't go back and change that life experience and that timeline, but I can change my belief about it, right? With that being said, next one is the emotions. So as I can change my belief about it, I can also change how I feel about it. I can change my emotions around it. So E, best you. B-E, E is emotions. The sacral chakra governs our emotions. Emotions is just the name of what we're feeling in that moment, right? So oftentimes I reflect back and I think it's interesting how in some conversations I have had where the term emotions automatically were considered to be like this bad thing. Like, don't have an emotion. My feelings, if I feel, it's terrible. Kind of almost forgetting in a sense that there are emotions that are good quotes, air quotes, higher vibrational emotions that we actually like, right? I like to feel love. I like to feel happiness. I like to feel that lighthearted giggle in my belly kind of thing. Yeah. Uh, we like to have fun and we like to feel interested and intrigued. And there's lots of emotions that we like to feel too. So it's not a bad thing. And again, I'm using the terms good and bad just for descriptive words to differentiate. I know I get what's the word I'm looking for? Like that, right? It's like I want certain words to describe what I'm meaning, but yet sometimes it seems like words can not, still not finding them, not describe it in the way that we want. That's why I do like that, the concept and the discussion and using the words about vibration and energy, because that does. Many of us we could say a word like red, and many of us can have different experiences and ideas and feelings and opinions about red, the color red, what it means to us when we've seen it, when yeah. But a lot of us, when we think of vibration and feeling happy or excited, we know that feeling, regardless of where it came from, right? We know heavy and icky and gunky, regardless of where it came from. So bear with me on words. So, emotions, whatever it is we're feeling, and when you try to describe your emotions, think of them as that one word, right? Happy, sad, excited, scared, and just be observant of them. We don't have to get sucked down into them and feed them more, which I used to do. Again, those emotions, the sacral chakra governs our emotions. So, however our emotions are flowing in that moment, how we feel, we get an idea of how the energy is flowing in our sacral chakra as well. And in the Soul Legacy Journal with Iona Mead, she talks about health freedom, which coincides. We do these daily, so this would be a Tuesday. So beliefs, root chakra, contribution freedom, we break it down to cover on a Monday. Emotion, sacral chakra, health freedom, we break it down to cover on a Tuesday. And health freedom, health covers mind, body, and soul, right? Our emotions affect our mind, body, and soul. Our mind, body, and soul affect our emotions. That energy flows back and forth. They're interrelated, aren't they? When I'm all stressed and tense, my emotions feel heavy and icky, or shaky. Just anxiety popped into mind. When I'm feeling healthier, when I have those healthy releases through exercise, or I eat, healthier foods, lighter foods, foods that don't upset my physical body, my emotions tend to balance out more. Have you noticed that for yourself? Be observant. Speaking of observant, polar opposite chakra of the sacral chakra is the third eye chakra, which in my best view is the observer, being in that observer mode. When you think about the third eye chakra, it's an ability to see beyond the human experience, beyond the physical 3D experience, right? So even in our emotions, when they can feel so tense and they're not a physical object for us to see, when we shift up and pivot up into the energy of our third eye chakra, we can just see the emotion, be aware that it exists without getting so sucked into it, without the intensity of it, right? So, journal prompts that we can use in our energy healing journal. What emotions do I feel? So, when you think about that life experience that came to mind when you first asked about it, and the beliefs that you had around, or that might have stemmed from, grew from, if you will, that experience, what emotions do you have about that experience or belief? What comes up? Again, polar opposite, observe it, don't get sucked into it, right? Just write it out. Just think of those one words. How would I describe it? Take a break if you need to, right? So, what humanness emotions do I feel? And do you have opposite? So, as you're that observer, or if you have a different perspective, if you're starting to gain a different perspective, sometimes they just pop up, don't they? We get guided in just that moment, especially intuitively when we're able to observe. Note that too. What emotion or what do you feel more deeply in your soul from that source, creator, God, unconditional love energy? What emotions do you feel when you add that? And of course, again, the gratitude. What are you grateful for? Sometimes we're just grateful for the experience, aren't we? Mm-hmm. believe so. So next one, self-esteem. So best you, when you're spelling out best you, B-E-S, the S is self-esteem, which sits in the solar plexus chakra. And in the Soul Legacy Journal, Iona Me talks about emotional freedom. So when you think about that, now, yes, I just talked about emotions in the sacral chakra, right? However, self-esteem, solar plexus energy also deals with our thought processes, right? And my thoughts I can very much think myself into an emotion. So going through this journaling process, going through some life experiences, again, depending on what that experience was and my belief about that experience and the emotions that I have in that experience, I can think myself into more excitement, happiness, and love and gratitude. I can think myself when my humanness takes over, right? When my ego takes over, that negativity starts to feed itself. I can think myself into sadness or grief or anger and frustration and all those icky emotions, all those icky things, yeah? And then take that a step further. How then do I internalize? And we do a lot of that within our solar plexus chakra with our self-esteem. I may internalize and have what we call low self-esteem, or I might not have so much of the self-confidence, right? I might lack some self-confidence there. I might down myself. I might have an overinflated self-esteem. I might feel so powerful. Yeah. We talk about that even in the spiritual community, don't we? Feeling that power, wanting that, control in my life. And yes, to a degree, I want that control in my life. However, polar opposite of the solar plexus chakra then, right, is the throat chakra. So when we talk about speaking our truth, our highest truth, we can speak from either. I can speak from my humanness truth, or I can speak from my highest truth. So when you're balancing out and you're looking at the energies from both, take a look at that. When my self-esteem is overinflated, I start to speak out more about having that power and control, right? When I want to balance that a little bit, though, I'm not getting rid of my quote unquote individual power and control. I'm still empowered to make my own choices as a human being, right? However, to balance and harmonize that energy, I pull it in from God, Source, Creator. Yeah, that unconditional love, which is for everyone, not one or the other. It's for all of us together. So when that unconditional love is for all of us together, I set my intention, right? I open myself up to be a receiver of that unconditional love of God's energy, pure source, creator, universe. And then I let go and I release that quote unquote power and control. I ask for that guidance, right? I ask to be the best version of me. So when I ask to be the best version of me in the higher vibrational energy of the unconditional love from pure spirit, God, source, creator, then that balances and I'm no longer in that humanness, power, and control energy. Can you feel the difference in that? See, human words don't describe it as well, right? Yes, we use human words. That's how we humans are here and we communicate. But feeling into it and what it means to you and how you feel and that vibration between the two, and lean into that and journal on that. It doesn't matter how it's described in words, as in how you feel it when you speak it, right? So journal prompts to use in your energy healing journal. What do I internalize as me? So how often do we talk about the I am, right? And leaving it at that, or do we use descriptive words after we say that? I am what? Also, I encourage you, almost a challenge. It's kind of a challenge, right? Human life. Human life is a challenge. So I will say that. I challenge you to also be observant of your thought patterns. Do you find yourself ever personalizing? So sometimes we take something personal that had nothing really to do with us personally and the way that we took it, which could pull us into some icky gunky stuff, or the opposite, assuming that, we overinflated ourselves a little bit, maybe where we gave ourselves a little more power, if you will, than necessary, more humanness power. Do you ever jump to conclusions? Do you ever assume that people are talking about you when they're not? Do you ever assume that people are thinking ill of you when they're not? Do you ever assume, right, that we know what's going to happen in the next moment? And it's maybe in that moment that prediction is just based on our own fears. Do you ever do that? Do you ever magnify a situation, make it bigger than what it needed to be, or minimize a situation that needed more attention than we gave it? Yeah? Be mindful of those patterns. Ask yourself that. Maybe journal on that as well. What labels, right? Or how do we define ourselves? So moving on to the next one. Switched our banner for transformation. So when you're spelling out best you, the T in best is transformation. The space where our heart chakra governs, I should say, that space for transformation, right? It's also that space where, so the energy from the lower vibrational chakras, our lower chakras, come up and meet, bridge, cross over, whichever word you want to use, with our higher vibrational chakras, yeah? Our humanness energy comes up and meets here in the heart. Our unconditional love, God, source, creator, pure spirit energy is coming in from above, if you will, and meeting here in the heart chakra, right? So that's our space for transformation. That's the space where we become one within ourselves, with everyone else, how we unify, right? We do look at, and I too am talking about polar opposites because it helps bring me a level of perspective that I like, that helps me heal my layers. So I'm sharing that with you. But trying to shift from the dualities, right? Lower vibrations and higher vibrations, and me in the center of the heart, to me in that space to transform, to transmute the heavy, dense stuff, right? For me, it still exists. So this is where I'm at in my journey and will continue to speak. But the goal is, and the purpose is, of course, is to unify within, unify as a collective, right? Because what we do within, we project and share outwardly. It starts with us. So, of course, for polar opposite, then, there's not a polar opposite chakra that I speak of in the heart, but it is just the lower and higher vibrations. It's the human self and the God self, if you will, the humanness ego and our spiritual higher self, if you will, space of unconditional love, however, whatever words and labels you wish to choose and use it. Iona Mead talks about in this space for this day, in the Soul Legacy Journal, environmental freedom. And I love that because, again, it starts here. So when I think of environment, the first thing I think of, not the only, but the first thing I think of is this one, this physical body environment that I have, that I'm lugging around, that my soul, my energy body is lugging around, right? This environment. And then it's, where do I move and take my environment? How do I expose my energy? Where do I stick myself, right? What environments do I place myself in? And then take a look at that. So some journal prompts to consider in your energy healing journal. Am I willing to forgive myself for feelings of blame, shame, and guilt? So remember when I spoke about this codependency, and I'm just kind of leading into each thing that I want to speak about. And this will be ongoing. There are many characteristics of codependency. There are many examples and life experiences that I have. I'm not sharing my full story, right, in this particular video, but we're scratching the surface a little bit. So each one from here out in this series, I'll share more about the codependency and some of the experiences and beliefs that occur. I just really wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the steps that I'm going to take from here forward. So again, am I willing to forgive myself for feelings of blame, shame, and guilt? The heart space, the space for the transformation, transmutation, the inner environment, if you will. Codependency, all those moments of feeling blame, shame, and guilt, whether I received it and held it and internalized it from others. So whether all the times I pointed my fingers out and blamed someone else for quote unquote making me feel a certain way, forgiving myself for that, then forgiving myself for receiving that, and then forgiving myself for adding more of that to me, because I did that too, right? So I hear it, or I have an experience, and my belief around it was created into or formed into blame, shame, and guilt. Then I took it and said, yep, that's blame, shame, and guilt. That's mine. I'll take that. And then I held on to that. And then in my own, I started blame, shame, and guilt. Oh, I would like to have, nope, right? Beat myself up with the blame, shame, and guilt. You can't do that. You'll put somebody else out. You can't have that. You're undeserving. You can't think about going to do that. Someone might need you, right? Those are codependent thoughts. Am I willing to have forgiveness for others who attempted to blame, shame, or guilt me? Because let's be real, some people do make that effort, right? We will have a video on like energy vampires as well. I have to allow myself to not blame others, though, right? I have to allow myself to not get sucked up in the finger pointing and the blame, shaming, guilting others either. Yeah. So there's two folds in that. And then, of course, what am I grateful for? Again, I'm grateful for these opportunities to heal and to be observant and to pull in, to see the difference and pull in the energy of unconditional love to help me clear and balance and unify within. Love that. Lots of gratitude. You guys, my head has been buzzing the whole time, by the way, which I love. That's like my openness and connection and knowing that I'm being guided. And it's my physical proof, if you will, is when I can feel my head just doing this vibratory thing. Anybody else out there have that? Oh, it's one of my favorites. So next one, your truth, right? Throat chakra. Spelling out the best you, the why of you, your truth. Again, the throat chakra governs that, right? How we speak, how we listen. I always think of like throat chakra, that quick memory or association, ears, nose, and throat. Ears, how we hear, how we speak is both in communication. We don't really communicate well only speaking when we're not listening and hearing either, right? It's giving and receiving ideally. So the energy of your throat chakra, again, where is it? What energy are we speaking from? Are we speaking from the lower vibrational chakras of those old conditioned program beliefs that aren't really my truth, but in my humanness, it's fighting to try to make it true? Am I speaking from the emotions that might be wonky and again stem from the humanness and my either underinflated or overinflated self-esteem that's still much humanness? Or am I speaking from unconditional love? Am I speaking from God, source, creator, pure spirit? Am I speaking from the observer mode with the, more self-awareness and having that ability to really share my highest truth, even when I have to own my stuff and even when I'm taking accountability and even when it might feel uncomfortable? Is that the truth I speak? And am I open to hearing other people, right? Am I open to hearing what other people have to say? Am I open to observe the energy of other people without trying to take it on? Codependency. Am I open to holding space without trying to take over? Because the taking over is codependency, right? Which also is a huge factor with relationships, isn't it? So in the Soul Legacy Journal, Iona Mead covers relationship freedom. And the same day that I typically talk about your truth and the throat chakra. Relationship includes self-love. Do I listen to my own needs? How do I speak to myself? Remember when I had just said about how I would beat myself up? Not only would I receive and take the blame, shame, and guilt that someone tried to give to me, I took it and accepted it, and then I internalized it, and then I beat myself up with it, and then I spoke to myself in the same ways that I didn't want to be spoken to. Spoke to myself the same ways, those same patterns. Yeah? Does that resonate for any of you? So again, polar opposite of throat chakra now is solar plexus. Balancing that energy. So it seems like in the beginning of our discussion, and we talk about the lower chakras, we're pulling in the energy of the higher chakras, right, to help heal the lower chakras. Do my higher chakras necessarily need to be healed? I don't know that I would say that. However, when it's that higher energy, right, the higher vibrational energy, when that is clear to be as it is, then that's a beautiful space to be in. However, when I'm looking at the higher vibrational chakras and they're not vibrating at higher energy as they should be, then it's probably because I took some of that mud and gunk, so to speak, from the lower vibrational chakras and I pulled it up into the higher ones and smeared it around. Let me know if that makes sense. I had that visual. So one way we know this, right, is by journaling as well. So it gives us a chance to be open and honest with ourselves. Nobody has to read it. And if you're like, I don't want to journal because someone might read it, destroy it when you're done with it. But journaling on it helps you release it. Give yourself permission to release as you're doing, and it's an opportunity to be aware and observe. So in your journaling process, a journal prompt for your healing journal: how do I communicate with myself? Are you loving to yourself? Are you kind? Do you show compassion with yourself? Do you beat yourself up? Do you challenge yourself? Do you overinflate yourself? That's another good question. And how do I communicate with others? Be honest with yourselves. Do you hear people out? Do you really hear what they have to say? What about when you don't like what they're saying? What about when you don't agree with what they're saying? What about if you have different beliefs on something and you're hearing them talk about that? That could be a challenge, right? Sometimes I know for me, I want to jump in and be like, no, because I feel that my belief is right. And I want you to hear and I want you to believe what I believe because I feel right. That's some overinflated energy right there, isn't it? Right or wrong, how do we communicate, right? Because I can still hear somebody out and not agree with what they're saying. I can still hear someone out and not adapt to their belief, but I don't have to get loud. I don't have to get aggressive, right? So when we speak, are we assertive, passive, or aggressive? And when we listen, do we listen actively or reactively? Questions to ask yourself, right? Really expand your self-awareness in your journaling process. It's how we heal. And then, as always, gratitude. What are we grateful for? Next. So spelling out best you, the O of you, observer. Being in that observer mode, observing yourself. I don't mean observer by looking out at everyone else and dictating and judging what everyone else is doing, because we do that with our human eyes, don't we? And with our physical, lower vibrational, if you will, human eyes, we do that. Higher vibrational, third eye chakra, observer mode, and observe first within our self-awareness. The part I love about the energy healing lifestyle is just that. To me, an energy healing lifestyle is my journey of healing. The energy healing lifestyle is looking at all of these things in the aspect of energy because it helps for me to ease the weight of it. It's easier for me to detach from the weight of it, to see it as energy. It allows me to move with it instead of fight against it, right? I hope that made sense and feels decent for you as well, and that you're able to do something similar if it resonates. So observer mode, third eye chakra. In the Soul Legacy Journal, it's spiritual freedom, right? And I love that. Third eye observer, higher vibrational energy, right close to that unconditional love, pure spirit, God source energy connection, our intuition. It's that part of us that, for the clairs, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, gives us that bigger observation, awareness. It allows us to see or hear or feel or whatever your clair may be, higher, more, different than just the physical human experience, the spiritual freedom, the spirituality within, the spirit within. Oh, keep myself goosebumps. Love that. Polar opposite chakra, again, is a sacral chakra, right? Where we have our emotions. When we are able to observe from the third eye chakra, be in that observer mode of ourself, observing our emotions, we can use our emotions as a guide without getting sucked in, pushed, and pulled, right? We can be aware of our emotions to know that, yes, this feels right to me. No, it doesn't feel right to me. Yes, my human really likes this. No, my human really does not like this. Yeah. Journal prompts to use in your energy healing journal. How does God source energy intuition support me, my human, my soul, through feelings of guilt and healthy boundaries? Because there's a difference there, right? I have the feeling of guilt, and oftentimes when I feel guilt, or if I feel blame, or I feel shame, there's probably a lack of healthy boundaries. What would a healthy boundary look like? Be the observer of that. Really question what a healthy boundary would look like for you. Bringing in the energy, using the energy of unconditional love for both of us as you set your healthy boundaries. If you're new to me, I've said before in the past that we say, or we have said, or I have heard people say, and we talk about or used to think about healthy boundaries as like being a thing, like I'm gonna have to set a boundary with you, like it's some kind of a disciplinary action, right? I'm gonna have to set a boundary with you. I'm gonna have to set a boundary with this person. We should have had boundaries to begin with. Healthy boundaries should be, I'm saying should, because many of us don't, especially if you experience codependency, right? Healthy boundaries should just be a thing, a natural thing for all of us all the time. When it's not, as in like codependency situations, characteristics, however you want to word that, as like with codependency, we lack healthy boundaries. So then we have to remind ourselves. And here's the example of when I need to set a healthy boundary. Here's an example of why I need that healthy boundary, right? But the healthy boundary isn't just like, okay, now it's screw you and it's about me this time because I'm setting that boundary. A healthy boundary is saying, this is good for both of us. This is going to help us both. In our humanness, we may not like it, but from the higher vibrational energy of unconditional love, it's best. Like it's best for all, right? That's a healthy boundary. What does that feel like? How does that sit with you? Journal on that. What comes up if you notice resistance as you're journaling on that? I'm going to label that as a block, right? So as you journal on healthy boundaries, as you journal on healthy boundaries for all of us, as you journal on the healthy boundary with unconditional love for both, do you feel or sense any resistance? And if you do, put a name to that block so you know what you need to clear. Okay, you don't have to get sucked into it. We're observing it. Higher vibrational energy, third eye chakra. Awareness, self-awareness. Name the block and we'll clear it. So last but not least, the seventh energy of unconditional love. So best you spelled out the you and you, right? Last letter of you. Unconditional love, crown chakra. And in the Soul Legacy Journal, Iona talks about financial freedom. And why do those go hand in hand? Because financial freedom is like a huge, what's the word I'm looking for? Gauge. It's almost like a gauge. If we say, I do love myself, I know that I love myself, ask yourself, are you financially free? Excuse me. And of course, your definition of financial freedom is going to play a role in how you gauge in that question or how you answer that question, right? If you're not experiencing financial freedom, then I would ask, why not? Because financial freedom is a form of self-love. It's a way that we know that we are loving ourselves and that we're allowing love for self, unconditional love. I don't mean greed. I don't mean that we're out stomping on other people trying to make, get rich, that we're not living in integrity so that we can have financial gain. That is not what I'm speaking about at all. Scratch that. What I'm talking about is to not have stress. How can I show up? How can I be the best version of me? How can I share that best version of me with you? How can I be of assistance to you? How can I share more and more and more love in the world? If I'm stressing over finances, makes it a little difficult. The energy of that stress, when I'm not sure how I'm going to eat, when I'm not sure how I'm going to pay the bill, when I'm not sure where I'm going to live, or I'm not sure how I'm going to put gas in my car to go to work to do the things so I can eat and pay the bill and live or stay warm because it's getting cold out here now, right? The stress and all of that is not going to be the energy, the space that I'm going to show up with unconditional love to share for me and you. It's not the energy or the space that God, source, creator, pure spirit, universe wanted us to be in. It's not. That's humanness that created that resistance against receiving. That's humanness and the codependency for myself that I experienced in my lifetime that says, you don't deserve it. You are taking away from someone else. You can't have it. You are unworthy. Right? That's not unconditional love, is it? Crown chakra, direct connection with God, pure spirit, source, creator, unconditional love. That is not unconditional love. To say you can't receive that energy exchange, that financial energy exchange, because you're unworthy. How is that unconditional love? It is not, right? Hence the self-love journey. It's not a self-love journey for greed. It's not a self-love journey of humanness. It's not a self-love journey to deny other people love. It's a self-love journey to stop denying ourselves. It's a self-love journey to start allowing ourselves that love that everyone deserves. We know that we are part of a collective, that we are a collective. So how do we single ourselves out? What does that do to the collective? Big questions, right? Journal prompts. And I skipped this polar opposite there for a minute. My apologies. Polar opposite of the crown chakra then is the root chakra, the beliefs, right? How we are rooted in this human life experience. So again, if I'm telling myself that I'm undeserving and I'm not worthy of receiving love or receiving finances, however you want to spend or share or pay that energy, if you will, then how do I contribute in the world? How do I show up as me? How do I share with the rest of you? How do I fulfill my energy, my space, my role as part of this collective if in my roots, if in my beliefs, I'm unworthy and undeserving and I'm not allowing myself to receive? What do I have left when I'm empty? Is that what I offer? Is that what I give? And is that unconditional love? So in that journal prompt, to add more, journal prompt for your energy healing journal. With all that being said, right, with clearing and releasing all of those things in our journal, what does my now look like? When I pull in unconditional love for self, what does my now look like? When I'm pulling in the unconditional love for myself and still others, right? Both of us, what does my now look like? And then the gratitude. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for that in itself. That right there. Having the unconditional love for self, having unconditional love for others, having unconditional love as a collective and unifying as such. Mm-hmm. Feel that. Thank you. Thank you for spending your time and energy with me, for sharing your space. Don't forget to check the descriptions below the video within the podcast for free offers, upgrades, and updates. Make sure to join us again next week for the next episode of Clearing All Layers of Codependency. I will see you then. So much love to you.